Hi everyone! Today is the day to make that great kunefe at home, and you'll be so surprised how easy it is and how delicious it's going to be. When you look at kunefe, it is this amazing dish which looks so posh. Compared to how it looks, the number of ingredients you're going to need and the effort that you're going to put in it is so little that you'll be surprised. The hardest ingredient to find is probably kadayıf. I've asked you guys and you all told me it's easy to find in US, in many of the markets they sell it. You've sent me some links. Thank you guys, I love you and you make my days and nights and weeks. Thank you for all the help in UK as well, in Arab markets, in Turkish markets and in India as well. So this is the kadayıf. Actually this is not a really good one, but I have chosen this purposefully. It's rather in a way a little dry. When you open it for a long time, please put a damp cloth, not a dry one, but wet cloth so that it won't get dry. But I'll show you a technique to make it come back to life perfectly. So kunefe is now ready to be cooked and enjoyed worldwide. Now we're going to make this crunchy börek, the kadayıf, and then we're going to wet it with something sugary, and that will give it sugariness because kunefe, kadayıf by itself is a dough. It's not sweet, it's not salty. To make this sherbet, the classical one is 1 tablespoon of sugar to 1 tablespoon of water. For the whole serving, which is going to be around for 6 people, it's going to be 6 tablespoons of sugar. If you say, Refika, we don't like using sugar anymore, none of us do. I just wanted to make the classical and the crunchy one. But if you're totally against using processed sugar, you can make the same thing with 4 tablespoons of water and 7 tablespoons of honey. So I'm going to add to this 6 tablespoons of sugar to 6 tablespoons of water. I'm going to mix this and turn on the heat. What we have to do is melt the sugar on low heat before the water starts to boil. If you do this in high heat, before the sugar melts, the water will start to boil. And when that happens, you make the dessert. It could be a baklava, it could be a kunefe. When it gets cold, the sugar turns into granules again. And that we don't like. We want it to stay as sherbet. That's the key success point in this. And I don't know if you knew, but the sorbet, the Italians do, got its inspiration from sherbet. In the Ottoman time, there were lots of different kinds of sherbets made from herbs, spices, or mixture of fruits and spices. These were wonderful. And then that sherbet turned into sorbet and became this great thing. First, when sugar is melting, it becomes this opaque thing and then it starts to be more clear. As you can see, it's not still very clear. When this melts, it starts to be a little thick. That's what we want. When it starts to boil, make it boil for about a minute. And then we put few drops of lemon. Purposefully, I'm using this old lemon because I had it in the refrigerator. Normally, I wouldn't have used it, but I want to encourage you guys to use everything to the maximum. I wanted to show you the real life. Don't take it as an insult on you. Normally, these few drops make it shinier, helps it not to crystallize when the sherbet gets cold. When you put sherbet on something, for the crunchiness to stay, one has to be cold, the other one has to be hot. Like, if the kunefe is hot, we have to put the cold sherbet, or vice versa. I'm going to take this outside to the cold so that it gets cold as soon as possible when I make my kunefe. Now, the second step is to wet the kunefe with some kind of fat. The traditional way is to wet it with butter. If you have butter at home, you can use it that way. We will need 3 tablespoons of butter to wet this 150 grams of kadayıf. But I'm going to do something else. Because this kadayıf is not so fresh and the ones you're going to get are not going to be so fresh because normally Antakya, they just like put the dough on this copper plate which is going round and round and just they take it out and the kunefe guys pick it and then prepare it immediately and then cook it and you eat it that way. We cannot race with that, but this is the Refika technique. This I have used actually in London. There was this Yosma restaurant in Baker Street and they were not getting this Kunefe taste greatly. So I have said, guys, instead of butter, let's put double clotted cream. And this is also a Turkish thing made in Afyon in BBC. I was part of the documentary there. This has milk in it and the milkiness will waken up and freshen the Kunefe. So I'm going to cut this in pieces. I know that you can find double clotted cream in UK, but if you cannot find, you can use some kind of cream and butter together. If you have it at home, this milkiness will help it. I'm just melting it this much, and because if it's too hot, it's going to make it mushy. And what I'm going to do, I pull apart kadayıf like this.
Actually you have a lot of recipes with kadayıf, no? Like salty, sour, sweet.
I have to tell you, I want to be known in Turkey as anti kadayıf someday when I get old, because this puree was just being used for Kunefe. It was not in their minds that they can make it at home. It wasn't very easy. I gave that idea to the rest of Turkey, not the locals. Even when I went to Germany, I made schnitzel out of it in the Frankfurt Book Fair. The schnitzel is so well. Or if you wrap this kadayıf around a banana and fry it and just a bit of nutmeg and honey, it becomes one of the best desserts ever.
You make börek out of it.
Tava börek, which is one of the bar's favorites, no?
Indeed.
So what I did, it was this long thing. I tore it into small pieces like this. And now I'm adding all the clotted cream. And not to lose anything, what I'm doing is cleaning inside the pan with this. Maybe you remember the word bereket. This increases the fruitfulness of the home, sustainability of your life, because now we get to use all the offerings of this clotted cream and not waste it. With my hands, I rub this cream to all the strings, but I'm not doing this like, pushing it inside and then it will become a mushy thing. It won't be a crunchy thing. So I am being very careful in terms of giving it an air. You shouldn't make it lose its individuality. Each string is done. So now I'm ready to cook. For the cheese, I have dil peyniri, which is like the string cheese, but anything that you have which is not so salty would do. Cream cheese wouldn't be so great. Make this into these strings so that it will elongate better. Now, my cheese are ready. A copper pan is great, but if you don't have it, it could be any kind of pan that you like. It would be better if you have just like a long handle. I just wanted to make it in copper and I'm making it in a harder version, but to make it look cooler for you guys. So, first heat the pan a little and make sure that with this teaspoon of butter, to butter all the bottom of the pan. Now, I'm turning the heat to the lowest. And now, I'll add the half of the kadayıf inside. After I cover the bottom, now I have to press it so that when the cheese melts, it doesn't go from a hole. If there's a weak point, I add a bit of kadayıf and make sure that everything is closed. Then with a wooden spatula, I am pushing the edges so that it will look better. Now I add my cheese, it's about 80 grams, leaving just a centimeter from the edge, because when the cheese melts, and as you can see, I'm very generous for the cheese. I don't want it to fall from the sides. Then I add the rest of the kadayıf on top. Now this wooden spoon helps to make it into a shape. Some of the wooden spoons that you have Like for example, this is like a bit round because these are all handmade. But it's okay because wood is alive. If it bends a little, etc., you can always put it into some water and it will get back to normal. And never put these kind of wooden spatulas to the dishwasher. I am pushing from the side and pushing from the top. Normally, I want to show you, kunefes are massively made in these pans like this. Because you wouldn't be able to find it, I didn't use them. Last but not least, it comes down to the pistachios. These are called bozic. These are like the green olives before the olives turn black. Green olives are collected a little earlier. These are same. The pistachios are collected in a little earlier time and just dried like this, so it's bright green. There are Iranian and Turkish pistachios sold all over. I think one of the superfoods. It's a bit expensive, but it's worth it. This makes the great taste of baklava. But if you don't have these pistachios, you can use any kind of pistachios that you can find. Okay, it won't be the same if you have just like macadamia nuts or some things. It comes to the hardest part. To turn the kunefe other side.
How do you understand to turn it?
Does it move like this? It's important. If it doesn't move like a leakage of cheese or something, you have to make sure by like pushing it, understanding from which side to take the sticking cheese out of it with a spatula or something. Second, you can see it's done, it's crunchy. Now, the hardest thing, I want to show you the plates. Normally what I would do, I have each different size of lids like this, and with the lid just turn it. Or like this, turn it. But because like the lid shouldn't have corners that stick out and it's really hard to find and you might not have it. So I thought a plate would be better, but with a plate, probably you have several different kinds of plates. For example, this plate is not good. Why? The corners like stick out. And when you try to turn, when you're trying to slide the kadayif, it won't be so easy. Or a plate like this part is very long, so it will go down and won't be so good. This plate is not very curvy. The sides are easily slippable compared to this one, like this. So a plate like this, which is almost the size of the kunefe, so it will get inside the pan. If the plate is bigger and there's a space, when you're turning, it might cause a problem. So time to turn the kunefe. To be on the safe side, turn the heat down. And then put the plate like this into the pan, and then with a cloth that will hold both the handles. If they are plastic, that would be easier. What I'm going to do is use this hand, and with the other hand I'll turn the pan like this. Like yes. So turn the heat again, add the rest of the teaspoon of butter. Turn it to the lowest heat. And this shouldn't be on the plate too much. Now I'm making slower, but it's better if you're faster. Slip the kunefe.
You know how they turned it normally, no?
Like this. One day we can do it, but my job is to make sure that all you guys do it perfectly. So, there's a saying I want to tell you about Shams Tebrizi, which is the inspiration of Mevlana Rumi. He says that hayatım alt üst oldu diye üzülme. Ne biliyorsun hayatın altının üstünden daha güzel olmadığını? Now, this is, to translate it, don't be sad if your life turns upside down. How do you know that the upside is much better than the downside? Now, as we have turned the kunefe upside down, that thing was in my mind to tell you guys. Now the bottom side is much crunchy. Again, what I'm trying to do is push the edges like this to the middle. I add the pistachios. And it's very important for it to be slowly cooked. This pushing the sides is very essential to pull the kunefe together. Actually, you're kind of wrapping the kunefe. Now, as you can see, it's growing because now the cheese are melted and coming great. By the way, you can make this in the oven, and usually the recipes are like that, but it's never as tasty and as crunchy when you do this in a pan. Now we have the cold sherbet. Whoa! As you can see, it's kind of thick. I turn the heat down. It's very hot. Now it's time to put the sherbet. And the rest, what I'm going to do, I'm going to drop around the pan. So from the bottom, it can be soaked like this. Now, time to eat. Hoppa! So, this is how it looks. Something like this. Hop, more. And if you like the edge, the crunchy side, which I am that person.
No, I am that person.
Okay, you're that person. How do you like it? Every time. Guys, this is the Kunefe lady speaking. I've eaten kadayıf everywhere almost around Turkey. Tasted many people's, and trust me, if you do this, this is the closest it gets to the best, which is in Antakya, in this long bazaar, which is probably there for about 1,000 years, I don't know. It's so beautiful, and enjoy. This is how the famous kadayıf is done at its best in the tradition with ingredients that you can find everywhere in the world.
I have been dreaming about this since the day you said you were going to cook this.
And if you want, you can put more kaymak on it, on
Of course
top.
I did.
Always heavenly.
That butter, the crunch, the wonderful taste of that cheese, şerbet. There's another saying in Turkish. Yeme de yanında yat. Don't eat it, sleep with it. And like not having sex.
So it has these kind of effects too. Guys, now she's going through a sugar rush. So normal. Take care. Have a wonderful weekend and have a wonderful week, hopefully. If you're under quarantine, this is a great way to celebrate it. Don't forget to share the video, like the video. Bye.